Captain Colter Stevens wakes up disoriented on a train, unsure of where he is. A woman named Christina greets him, calling him Sean, but Colter doesn't recognize her. He's distracted by the surroundings and doesn't respond. Christina questions his strange behavior, but Colter insists he doesn't know who she is. He gets up, steps outside for a moment, and tries to gather his thoughts. When he returns, he looks at his reflection and is shocked to see someone else's face staring back at him. He checks his wallet and sees the same unfamiliar face. Christina is waiting outside the restroom, and when he tells her he doesn't know either her or the person she calls him, the train suddenly explodes. Colter wakes up again in a strange place, hearing a woman's voice asking if he's functioning. Still confused, he struggles to answer her questions. She wants to know what happened on the train and where the explosion came from. Colter asks who she is, and she appears on a monitor, telling him that he already knows. She explains that they are going to rebuild his memory and starts a procedure to jog his mind. As she continues the exercises, Colter tries to escape but soon remembers parts of what she said. She asks for her name, and Colter, now recognizing her, calls her Goodwin. A man named Dr. Rutledge briefly appears on the screen, checking something, and Colter takes the chance to ask about speaking to his father, but Goodwin interrupts him, pressing for more information about the bombing. She tells him Christina calling him Sean is irrelevant. Colter doesn't know who bombed the train, and Goodwin insists he go back into the simulation for 8 more minutes. Colter, believing he's trapped in a simulation, refuses to cooperate, but Goodwin insists that he focus on finding the bomber. Back on the train, Colter notices the details, the soda can opening, the spilled coffee, and concludes that everything seems too real to be a simulation. He activates a timer and looks around, trying to spot anything suspicious. When a man jokingly says there's a delay, Colter grows even more suspicious. He starts to search the train, noticing a student returning a wallet. Colter remembers that the explosion came from behind him and heads to the restroom. There, he finds the bomb hidden in the vent and talks to Goodwin, thinking she can guide him on what to do next. But instead of disarming the bomb, he leaves it untouched and comes up with another plan. He returns to the train and tells passengers that there's been a security breach and asks them to stop using electronic devices. When no one listens, Colter gets violent, closing a man's laptop and breaking his jaw. Christina rushes over to help, but Colter tells her not to worry because neither of them is real. The train explodes again. Back in the strange place, Goodwin tells him to stabilize and lower his pulse. She asks if he found the bomb, and Colter confirms that he did. He insists on speaking to Dr. Rutledge, suspecting he's in charge. Colter is convinced he was in Afghanistan just 2 days ago, but Goodwin corrects him. It's been 2 months. Confused, Colter answers her questions, and she explains that the train explosion was real, but Colter is now in the body of a man named Sean Fentress, who was on the train when it blew up. Colter still doesn't understand, but Goodwin pushes him to focus. She reveals that the bomb was meant to explode when a freight train passed by, causing both trains to be engulfed in flames. The bomber must have been close enough to time the detonation. Goodwin tells Colter to focus on the passengers and carry out his tasks. He's sent back again. When Colter returns to the train, he feels like something is different. Christina spills coffee on his shoes, and he comments on her kindness, now convinced she's real. Colter asks the conductor about the passengers, and the man finds Colter acting strangely. He turns to Christina and asks her if anyone seems suspicious. They discuss the people on the train, and Colter grows more focused. He notices a man coming out of the restroom, and when he talks to Christina about it, she comments on racial profiling. Colter searches through Sean's things and only finds Christina's name in his notebook. He insists they follow the man he suspects and makes Christina come with him. They find the guy in the bathroom, and Colter follows him outside. The man seems sick, and Colter gets suspicious. He borrows the man's phone but is quickly thrown off by the guy, who leaves in a hurry. Colter chases him, convinced he might be the bomber. The man pushes Colter onto the tracks and he's hit by an oncoming train. When Colter wakes up again, he's in the strange place, and he can't hear Goodwin or anyone else. It's cold and unsettling. A man working with Goodwin informs her that Colter is in trouble. They speak to Dr. Rutledge, who explains that Colter's situation is unlike anything they've ever encountered. They continue sending signals to Colter, hoping he'll respond. Meanwhile, Colter manages to restore power in the place where he's located and begins hearing distorted voices. As Goodwin reads him the passage again, Colter calls out to her. Dr. Rutledge tells Colter that he created the device Colter's inside of, confirming that he's in charge. Colter insists he saved someone on the train, but Goodwin says that saving the passengers is outside his mission. Colter argues that a passenger survived, but Rutledge explains that she survived only in the source code. Source code isn't a time machine, but a form of time reassignment. Goodwin assures Colter he's doing well, but she sends him back to continue his mission on the train. Colter returns to the train and quickly gets to work. He draws a military patch Goodwin showed him earlier and asks Christina to look for a friend he lost in Afghanistan. He grows suspicious of a man talking on the phone and checks his bag for anything unusual. Colter also notices a woman carrying a bag from an Army medical center and speaks with her. She tells him that the letters on the patch stand for Nellis Air Force Base. Colter calls the base, asking for Dr. Rutledge. Christina returns with bad news. His friend is dead, killed in action 2 months ago. Colter recalls memories from Afghanistan and hears Goodwin's voice again, taking him through the mnemonic exercises. When he wakes up in the strange place once more, he asks Goodwin if he's dead. He tells her he found an article online confirming his death and that his father had received a medal in his honor. But Goodwin tells him to focus on the train, insisting everything else is irrelevant. Colter is desperate to know the truth about his situation. When Goodwin explains part of it, she tells him that part of his brain is still active, but his body is just a manifestation. Colter questions whether he's imagining the capsule, and Goodwin confirms that the capsule itself is also a manifestation. However, she refuses to tell him where his actual body is. Rutledge, the project director, steps in, insisting that Colter must return to the train to stop another bombing. Colter doesn't agree with how the source code works, and he reminds Rutledge that he called him from the train that morning. Rutledge tells him he didn't receive that call, and if he had, it would have come from a different reality, one where a different version of Rutledge would exist. To convince Colter, Rutledge explains that the project was approved by a military court and that many soldiers would rather take this chance to serve their country again than face death. Colter retorts, saying that for many soldiers, one death is enough service. Rutledge promises that if Colter completes the mission, he will be allowed to die. He also reminds Colter that the success of this mission is crucial to saving 2 million Americans. Reluctantly, Colter agrees to continue. Rutledge sends him back to the train repeatedly without rest, manipulating Colter by playing a recording of his father, who regrets that they never really understood each other. Finally, Colter gives in and agrees to keep going. Back on the train, Colter moves quickly to disable the bomb. He calls a number from the bomb's call log, and a man answers. Colter confronts him, pointing a gun and demanding answers. The man swears he was talking to his wife, but Colter forces him to make the call again. When the second phone rings, Colter realizes the man's name is Derek Frost. After a tense standoff, Derek shoots both Colter and Christina before fleeing. Colter survives and confronts Derek again in a van, showing him the second bomb inside. Derek explains that he believes the world needs to be destroyed to be rebuilt, but Colter refuses to accept his reasoning. Just as Derek leaves, the bomb on the train detonates, killing everyone. When Colter returns to the capsule, he shares what he learned with Goodwin and Rutledge. He explains that the second bomb is radioactive. Rutledge congratulates him on completing the mission, but Colter asks to be sent back to try and save everyone before he dies. While the Army arrests Derek, Rutledge gets approval for the project from his superiors. Goodwin returns to talk to Colter, and they discuss the concept of parallel realities. Goodwin tells him he can't change the past, but Colter insists that he saw a failsafe on the bomb and that she's wrong. He begs her to send him back, promising to save Christina. Goodwin hesitates but eventually agrees. Colter is sent back to the train one last time. He disables the bombs, cuffs Derek, and calls the police to report him. As Colter uses his phone to send an email to Goodwin and call his father, Goodwin checks on his body and sees the state it's in. Colter talks to his dad, telling him he's sorry for not saying he loved him. His dad expresses the same sentiment. On the train, Colter and Christina walk to the Chicago Bean, and he realizes that the visions he had during the transitions were of that exact moment. The explosion never happens. Colter kisses Christina, and as his time runs out, Goodwin switches off his life support. The MPs arrive too late. Colter's body is dead, but the mission is a success. The world is saved, and Colter's last moments are spent with Christina.